War looms overhead, and this could be ignited from many regions around the world. We are seeing now Russia declaring the US a threat and adversary. You came here for the truth, so let me unveil that for you. This article right here out of the FT saying Putin builds China links as ties with the West fray. Now I have to scroll through this article. There is so much to cover here. I'm just going to go through a couple points, the major points, but you need to read this one. This is very important. And they're talking about Putin meeting China's president, and basically they are meeting together for that gas supply deal that I discussed in an earlier video. And there's just some things right here that I need to get through, and they're basically cementing ties. They're getting closer, and we all know that. We've seen this happening. I've disclosed that here. Pardon me, I just scrolled through. According to the Russian officials and security analysts, Moscow's worst standoff with the West since the end of the Cold War has convinced Putin, the government, that they must moor its security interest to China, and the Euro-Atlantic security architecture is broken beyond repair. They're basically saying right now they're falling apart from NATO, they're falling apart from the West, the US, and basically they have to make their own alliances, and that's exactly what they're doing. And it says this: cooperation between Russia and China is extremely important to keep the peace in the framework of making international law, making it more stable. So they love this international law. They always talk about this. We saw Leon Panetta talk about this with the, instead of going to the Congress when they need to use the military, they need to seek the international community. And, this is all about that. But what about the individual sovereignty of every country? But, that is a different topic for a different day. So let's go in here. What he said: Mr. Putin told the Chinese counterpart just 2 weeks after he accused the US of destabilizing the world by frequently violating international law. They certainly have done so by doing this, by going into all these other countries, starting wars with people they don't even know, putting bombs overhead, and they call it warheads on foreheads, actually was the Pentagon statement on that. Quite disgusting here. And if I just go into that, they basically updated their military doctrine in the targeting NATO and the US more clearly as the Ukraine crisis has frayed Moscow's relations with the Western alliance. And they go into that, declaring them an external military danger. They said this, the highlighted portion: people familiar with the document said NATO and the US would openly be designated as threats or adversaries in the document's new version, due to be published next month. So we'll have to get that information. Hopefully it will be disclosed to the public. But that is very huge news when they're saying specifically they're a threat. They're no longer, a counterpart. They are actually a threat. So with this, we can expect more things to happen economically as well. They're going to be scaling back on their purchases of US debt, and this is slowly but surely going to put much pressure on them. I'll move on quickly here, and this connects in again out of the FT, and what they're talking about is they're saying basically that there are problems that they had with Iraq and Syria. And they said this: I do wonder whether that historians will record that in the spring of 2014, we were too focused on Ukraine, just as ISIS was grabbing control of huge swaths of territory. Now, the reason I mention this is that there are consistently major distractions that go on in the mainstream media, and they use these distractions to pull away from the things that are hurting us at home. This is big information when we think about it. All of the other distractions now, there are all these silly things like celebrity news and all the things that go on TV that mean absolutely nothing, but there are also big distractions that are occurring, and we're seeing things happening just even today. Now, to connect in with that, I talked about what was happening in Syria in my book, and they said this: Russia and China's leaders have publicly opposed their actions. Their message was very clear: outside forces should not interfere in the internal processes of the countries in the region. Pretty clear what they wanted to say, and of course that connects in with what I was talking about at the beginning. Russia and China are basically fed up with what the West is doing, and that's why they're breaking apart. They are not getting close, that's for sure. You can see things are just getting worse and worse and worse, and they'll meet up for these, little events that they do, which I'll talk about in a moment, but we can see the tension getting thicker and thicker. Right here, gum chewing, limo-eschewing, Obama riles some Chinese. The economic summit that was occurring in Beijing, billed as the biggest international event in the Chinese capital since the 2008 Summer Olympic Games. So they're all there right now, and basically they're talking about how important this is. Now, what the reason they're doing this kind of thing, the reason that this is important for someone like Obama, is that they need to gain back some of the trust. They need to gain back some of what they're trying to accomplish here, and of course this is not going to work out for them because of what they're doing. They're committing crimes all across the world. They're really ruining a lot of their interests in areas like the Middle East and North Africa, where China and Russia do have that vested interest. Very important for them. So if I go on, this connects in with that, and this is out of CNN. Hackers recently broke into a U.S. Postal Service computer system and stole personal data, including social security numbers, for 750,000 employees and retirees. Very big news that's going on. Now, why is this actually connected? Well, let's go into this next article saying this. The Washington Post reported that the Chinese government hackers are suspected of being behind the breach. And that is very telling. And this comes at the exact same time, and this right here, as the Asia Pacific tour in Beijing, starting with the meetings with the president of China and the economic summit. So this is interesting that this hack actually was noticed in mid-September, but it is only being mentioned right now that Obama is there. Quite interesting that this is happening at this very time. We don't know what's true. We don't know what's being used as a political distraction, but undoubtedly these things do happen. There are fears, there are legitimate threats in the global economy, and we need to really think about this for a second. Now, one of those other articles previously did refer to the Putin referring to the West as building a world order, that famous word that they love to use, the New World Order, one world order. They like to use this, and basically what he was saying was they're really using it in a bad way. We need to collect together and create our own New World Order. But of course, these countries, the BRIC nations, are forming their own, and we can see these factions being formed, and undoubtedly it's bringing fear. Now, that fear is generating a lot of people's individuals that they need to protect themselves. So what are the legitimate threats that are happening right now? We can tell this one for sure. This is not fear-mongering. This is not anything like this. Fukushima radiation identified off northern California. Now, we know this right here is happening. We've seen this before. We've seen the independent studies that have gone on. And this right here is a documented fact that what was happening in Fukushima has spread its way to the regions. Now, it's not just California. It's all the way up the coast and down the coast as well. We've seen this happen, and it is a real threat to the public. We saw this happening, and you know what? The fact remains is that they're not doing anything about it. It is still happening today as we witness the radioactive water leaking in to the ocean, and it's just being allowed to disperse. And they're doing this simply because they said it is a very minuscule amount. It can't hurt you. And we saw the same thing happen. I know I talked about this a lot. The same thing in Ontario, where the nuclear power plant leaked radioactive water on 2 separate occasions into the drinking water supply for so many people. And they just said, look, it's a minuscule amount. Don't worry about it. How many times do we have toxic waste pouring into the lakes and the streams and everything in local regions, and then they say, nothing to worry about, nothing to see here? This is the kind of thing that we're facing every single day, and people are getting sick. People are getting really poisoned with things that are absolutely unnatural, and of course they were not doing anything to protect us. So people are getting serious about preparation, and this is just one article showing you that. This is right here: for sale, renovated luxury condo can survive a nuclear attack, out of the Wall Street Journal. And this is just one example. Of course, there are many things being done, but take a look at this. Affluent buyers worried about doomsday are snapping up the well-appointed bunkers built in a former missile silo. If you go down the article yourself, you'll see how it is. It's actually quite amazing for those looking for some luxury in their doomsday preparation. But it's not even really doomsday. You can think of this as an investment in a way, because people are looking to put their money into different regions, farmland and gold and real estate and everything. This could be seen as another way to preserve wealth. And of course, I would have to say that beyond this, beyond the food storage, beyond the water filters that I talk about all the time, beyond the gardens and growing sprouts and keeping seeds and everything that you can do, the absolute most important thing beyond all of that, which is extremely important, is knowledge. Getting the knowledge that you need right now to be prepared. You need to know everything. You need to keep your finger on the pulse of what's happening in the economy. We need to learn as much as we can. Everything is, really being shielded from us and sheltered, but we need to gain as much of the knowledge as we can. That's what I try to do here on this channel. I hope that you appreciate that. And I do get a lot of your comments suggesting that you do appreciate that. And so I feel that is a very good thing. I'm sharing what I learned here. I hope that you share what you learn, and comment if there's something that I miss, if there's something that you want to let me know or let other subscribers here know. The nearly 9,000 now. I mean, this is very good news for the prospect of liberty. People are waking up, and we need to share that information with like-minded people. If you found this informative, please give me a thumbs up, and don't forget to become an insider. The Insiders is where I give out all my best intel for free, and that is available at themoneygps.com. You scroll down to the bottom, fill in your email address, and you get occasional emails from me with good, short, concise info.